Good evening, everybody, and apologies for the delay. I would like to give a very warm welcome to everybody who is present in the room and also those who are joining us online. So welcome to the Ring20 Family Conference 2022. For those who are online, we've just got a few requests. One is that you keep your microphones on mute, that you keep your cameras on if possible. If you are able to use a headset or earphones, please add your names on the participant list so that if you want to get in touch with us and pose a question, we'll know who's doing that. If you do want to communicate with us, you could use the raise hand within Zoom. And we would also ask everybody, those in the room and those online, to speak slowly and clearly because not everybody has English as a first language. If you could please be as brief as you can. We're obviously running rather late, so we'll try and keep things moving as quickly as we can. And yeah, we would just like to hear from everybody. So let me quickly run through how we're going to do this evening. Any moment now I'm going to hand over to Alison. She's going to give you a very quick update on Ring20, who we are, what we do. We are then going to ask those of you in the room and also those of you online for any ideas, suggestions, anything that you think you would like the charity to do for you. We are then going to ask one of our members here from North America to give us a very brief review of a survey that was carried out. Although not that many people responded, we'd still really like to hear from Junko. And then towards the end of the session, we're going to have a group of Ring20 champions hosted by Charlene. Is she here?
She's making her way.
She's making her way. Yeah. Hopefully she'll be here by then. Just to get a view from the champions who've done a lot of work with Alison for Ring20 and just to hear what they've been involved with. And after that, we'll say goodbye to those of you who are joining us online and those...
Marco.
Oh yes, and Marco, yes, sorry, my apologies. We have a representative from Ring14 who's going to give us a brief view from the Ring14 charity, and then we'll stop for this evening. And here are Tim and Charlene, wonderful. We'll stop. So those of us who are here will have drinks and canapes. There are going to be bar snacks available for those who want them. I don't know whether anybody's actually registered, booked a table in the restaurant. That's possible too.
There's no sound coming over Zoom.
So I'm now going to hand over to Alison. Having done all the domestics, I think it's time now for Alison.
Good evening and welcome to everybody to our second ever Ring20 Families Conference. It's absolutely fantastic to see you all here. I'm truly apologetic for our slightly late start, but I hope you'll forgive us. We have something like 17 Ring20 families joining us here today. I think some of them are a little bit stuck and still on their way, and we have quite a few joining us from online. So if anybody joining us online would like to put their name and where they're from in the chat, that would be really exciting to see where you're joining us from. So I'm just going to take a few minutes, and I will be brief because I hope many of you know about us as Ring20 the charity. Who we are, what we do, because I think we want to do that to set the scene for you, for all of you, to say, what are we doing for you as families, and what could we be doing into the future to serve your needs as best we can. So I'm joined this evening by two of my fellow trustees. We have another on the road who will join us fairly shortly. It's a little delayed in transport. So the trustees, we had Lydia, our chair, Dale, our patient representative, patient advocate, and very much my right-hand man. We have Chris Sullivan, who's on his way, had a flat tyre, unfortunately, and Kim, our treasurer, who unfortunately couldn't be with us this evening. But that makes up our team of trustees currently. Now, we will hear shortly that Chris will be stepping down after a very prolonged term of office. So we do have a bit of a vacancy, so we might be looking for some new recruits, but more of that later. So, the trustees, what the trustees do is look after the charity, look after the strategic viewpoint of the planning, the money. What are we doing for the benefit of you, the community, the people, the families we support? But actually, the day-to-day stuff that we do is not the work of the trustees. That actually falls under myself and a fantastic team of volunteers that give their time so readily to help and serve all of you. So we will get to meet some of them, but if you want to give a bit of a wave, we've got in the room with us here, we've got Caliph and Laura, who we'll get to meet a little bit later. And Dale, a bit like myself, is not only a trustee, but also a volunteer helping me with very much those operations. And then we have Belinda, who will be joining us on Sunday, for those of us that are here in person. She's just joined us in the last month or so, and she's going to be helping us with writing grant applications to see if we can get a little bit more funding to do some of the great work that we know we need to do for all of you. And then we're also supported by Ian, who looks after our accounts, together with our treasurer Kim, and Clara, who is acting in a consultative basis in research for us, which is really important. But what you might notice on this little chart in front of you, or above me here, is that we do have a couple of vacancies. So Laura does some great work helping me out on social media and comms, but there's so much that we do in that area that we could really do with somebody to support us in that capacity. We also have a paid internship opportunity that is still currently live, I think for about the next month or so. So it's 80 hours work. It's available to international students up to the age of, I think, about 24. So it's to write an impact assessment report for us as a charity. So if you know anybody, or you'd be interested yourself in a bit of paid work, you could write, let me know and see whether you can help us out. And on top of that, there is always so much to be done. So somebody to help out with general operations and admin support would be absolutely fantastic. So some of the exciting stuff. Well, we're Ring20, we're based here in the UK, but we're supporting families all over the world. And I'm delighted to know that today here we have families from not only the UK, but from Belgium, the Netherlands, Slovenia. We also have families that have travelled from the USA and even Australia. It's amazing how far so many of you have come. And I know that we have people joining online and that have registered from as far afield as South Asia, from South Africa and South America. So we really have a global reach. And we're supporting, as you can see on this map, over 120 families worldwide. And they're kind of clustered around the English-speaking countries. But we are trying to reach out with others that are not native English speakers, because we know there are so many more families out there that we need to support. And we try and making a difference here by our new website having translation in 6 different European languages currently. It's auto-translation, but at least it provides some form of information and communication to many of the families out there. That's one of the key things that we deliver to all of you, is information via the website. We also deliver information, many of you, I hope all of you have received our comics, and we also have now information leaflets available for both families and healthcare professionals to give you an overview of Ring chromosome 20 syndrome. But this is really the crux of the part of the meeting that I just wanted to get to at this point, is the services that we provide. Because not only do we provide information, but as the name of our charity suggests, we are Ring20 research and support. So we do things on two different streams, if you like. In terms of promoting research, that's really about raising awareness of ring chromosome 20, letting people know about the condition and that we need more research into that. We do this through exhibiting at different events and networking to try and find collaborators. And very much speaking, you'll see me, hear me out there speaking about Ring20, the charity, and ring chromosome 20, the syndrome. We've set up an international research collaborative of various healthcare professionals with a particular interest in ring chromosome 20 syndrome to see what we can do strategically to move the dial forwards. We've been raising funds for much needed research, and we'll hear more about that later, and we're looking out constantly to seek higher funding for research grants to see if we can do more in the research area. But I guess for you guys, you know, you are the families, and the key thing that we do is to try to support all of you. So we do that by welcoming new families, we offer one-to-one support chats, we have our Facebook forum, which I know many of you use to connect with each other and share experiences. We have Rare Connect with, I think it's translation in about 11 different languages, not so well used, but has certain potential for families, non-native English-speaking families, to connect. Many of you have joined our coffee and chat sessions that we started in the last couple of years during the pandemic, and then last year the Step Into the Ring group that's very much run by Caliph and Dale here. For those people, those individuals, the young adults with Ring20 to connect. We've mentioned about the map and the information, and of course we're here tonight at our Families Conference. So I just want to hand over for a moment just to Junko, just to say a few words about the survey that was put out there. And then we're going to ask all of you in the room and those of you online what you would like from Ring20 in the future. Are those services that I've just mentioned here, so I'd like you to be thinking about this, the services that you want, that you need, that help you? What do you really like? What do you want more of? Is there anything that you don't really use and we could stop doing or scale down? And is there anything new that you think it'd be really great if Ring20 could do that? We'd like to know from you, strategically as a board, we will take on board everybody's comments and ideas and suggestions, and when we go through with our strategic planning for the next year and beyond, we'll start to think about how we shape Ring20, the charity, going forwards into the future, because we need to be meeting your needs. So for those of you in the chat, if you have any ideas, please pop your ideas in the chat, because we'll keep a record of that and look at that throughout the meeting and beyond. And for those of you in the room, we're going to get you to stand up for 5 or 10 minutes and just write stuff on the board before we move on to the next part. So I'm just going to hand over to Junko for a few words. Sorry, Junko, I'm pretty sure
Hello everyone, my name is Junko Fuda. I'm attending today from the US, California. So I tried to create a survey, like simple survey, and send out to the families in the US. But unfortunately, I haven't received much responses. So hopefully, in the future, we can have coffee and a chat and directly, virtually, but directly talk to each one of them and get small detailed responses. But through survey result, there's not much like a detailed comment, but members wanted to find out easier way to connect to each other. So I know not everyone can travel to abroad. So so hopefully we can have coffee and chat regular basis. It depends on the like time different zone, but we try to do that. And also the support or request to Ring20 group. So there was not much request, and there's not much like plans for the charity. So I think everybody's trying to do some sort of fundraising, individual basis, but not as a whole group of families. We haven't had any plans yet. So so nothing is really like concrete yet. But for the future, I and other volunteers, Steve, try to work together and get more, hopefully more volunteers to get maybe like creative ideas. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so as I mentioned, we'd really like to hear from you. So we're just going to take 5 minutes to just come up and have a think. If you've got any ideas, I'm going to hand around some sticky notes so you can sit and think and write some stuff. And for those of you in the room throughout the meeting and throughout the weekend, you can pop them up on the flip chart here. For those of you in the online, please put any ideas or suggestions in the chat if they come to you now. But beyond this meeting and this call, you know where to reach out to me. We'll put something out after the meeting and you can let us know if you have any ideas. So we're just going to take a quick 5 minutes now just to take a few ideas and then we're going to move on.
Can I get everybody's attention back again? We're still having slight tech issues, but while Alison sorts out the tech, I just had a quick read of some of these, and although they're very tiny and it's quite hard to see, I just want to say thank you very much for all these wonderful suggestions and your comments and your feedback, because it's so important for us to get that. So if I just pick out some of the more medical related questions on here, I hope that the presentations tomorrow will address some of that, okay? So tomorrow afternoon, there's going to be a panel to discuss, for instance, the drug issues. The presentation from Illumina from David Bentley will be talking more about diagnostics. And I think if we can improve diagnostics, that we will, by definition, get a wider worldwide footprint, because they will become easier for people, not just in the UK, but more generally, to identify the syndrome. I really like the suggestion about the collaboration with the other rings, and that's one of the reasons that Marco is here and is going to be talking to us. So some of these things, I'm hoping that we are already addressing, but we will take a much closer look at it as a board, and Alison will definitely be paying attention to it, and see if there are any other suggestions that we can take on board and that the charity can help you with. So I really just want to say thank you very much. I wasn't, when we had this idea of getting your feedback, I wasn't expecting all of that. So it's fantastic. We're going to now just move very briefly into the AGM, which is kind of the formality for this evening. Here we go. So yeah, I think we've done quite a few of this. We've done the welcome, we've done the celebration. We're going to look at the accounts. We will talk very briefly again about trustees, although Alison's already mentioned it, and then we can move on after that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, we'll give this a go. So we just want to sort of reflect on some of the key highlights of the last financial year. So we're talking about the accounts and the reporting to the 31st of March this year, which is our financial year end. So almost 6 months ago, feels like a lifetime, but that's how we have to report. So we have to think a year back from then and think about the key activities and the key things we delivered in that financial year. And obviously the main thing, hopefully many of you will have noticed, was our new website. And we were really proud to be able to update that to really differentiate between information for families and information for healthcare professionals. And of course, we have our new research section, so with lots of new ideas and where we had Unravel. And we've spoken about the translation services that we also have. And of course, I hope many of you will have looked at the information we put out on Unravel, but there was a lot of it, and you may not have understood all of it. But I hope that tomorrow in the sessions with the various speakers that we have coming, that we will be able to make things a lot clearer, and we'll give you ample opportunity to ask all of those questions tomorrow. We'd like to introduce you to our Ring20 champions. You've met Junko already. We have Carl also in the room. We have Dale as a champion. We have some others that couldn't be with us today, and some that are also on their way. And our champions came into force as part of Unravel, and we'll be hearing more from them with Shirlene in a moment. Big thing that we do, obviously, is trying to support all of you as families. So as we mentioned, coffee and chat and step into the ring. And we also ran wellbeing workshops, which I hope some of you participated in and got some value out of. And for those of us here in person, we've got some more workshops that we're running on Sunday morning for all of you, some really special ones. We want to say a big thank you to all of our volunteers and supporters. I'm actually, for probably about the last 18 months, the only part-time and paid member of staff. Everybody else that gives time to Ring20 does so voluntarily, and we thank you wholeheartedly for all of your support. That includes our trustees and all of our Ring20 champions, and our operational volunteers, which we ran through in our slide deck earlier, helping us out in lots of different areas. But of course, we couldn't do a lot of this as well without our fantastic supporters from the member fundraising from all of you. We mentioned our map before, but just sort of suffice to say that if you look at the clusters, we actually have just, around about a third of the families we support are based in North America. That's higher than the number of families we support in the UK and across the rest of Europe. And we do have quite a number of families in Australia and several scattered all around the rest of the world. So looking forwards, we want to continue very much that family support. We're here today with our second ever conference, and we want to build on this, but we'd also like to build on the expansion potentially of Ring20, because operating purely from the UK and trying to provide global support from the UK is really, really challenging. And we hope we'll get some hints and tips from Marco about what Ring14 have been doing as a patient group, who are very similar to us, but are working a little bit differently. And of course, we would like to go forward with the research proposed projects, and some of this will be subject to contract, but you'll hear so much more tomorrow. So our future plans are looking at other opportunities for diagnostic research, looking to see if we can gain insights from the natural history study. We want to see what we can learn from partnering and alliances, and we'll talk more about that tomorrow. And of course, ongoing support to you, our families. So, on the accounts. Would you like me to continue?
Carry on.
Oh, is it?
That's fine.
You're all getting fed up with the sound of my voice. So, this is the stuff that we have to do as part of the AGM. So, just looking at our income streams, I think we were, if anybody would like a copy of the accounts, we do have some copies here for you. In the financial year, it is just over £40,000 income, and significant amount of that came from, you can see, from grant funding, which was significantly up from the previous year, which is actually surprising in the pandemic situation. And actually, we're probably bucking the trend, a little bit different to other charities there, so that's really positive. But also what's incredibly positive is that member fundraising is up. And that's just thank you so much to you guys and your support. So just if we look at the breakdown of the member fundraising, that you can see that a major part of that member fundraising came from an in-memory fund. Very sadly, one of the mums of our individuals with Ring20 in the UK passed away very suddenly and very sadly last year, and we had an amazing response from the family and the friends to that. But many of you have done Facebook fundraisers and individual fundraising events, which has been truly phenomenal. And also we've benefited from 5 different grants to allow us to bring you this conference, to bring you the wellbeing support and other aspects.
Just Alison hasn't mentioned it, and I don't want to point any fingers, but actually the fundraising doesn't really represent where the people are, where the families are. And what we'd really appreciate is the fact that we are a very small volunteer-led charity based in the UK, dealing and hopefully supporting families all around the world. So one of the things that we might propose, and it'd be interesting to hear what Ring14 has to say, is that we actually need in different countries, especially where there are many families, we need those families to come together and to actually help and contribute, because I think asking the UK to do that on behalf of the whole world isn't realistic, to be honest. Okay, so that's all I wanted to add.
Thank you for doing that, Lydia, because it is important, and we know that many of you where English isn't your native language as well, having local support, local information, raising local awareness with the doctors and the clinicians and the researchers in your own country, that's not something we can do from the UK. And you know, you're better placed to do that from within yourselves, within your own countries. Just taking a brief look at donations, because again, like member fundraising, we benefit hugely from the donations that primarily come from you guys, our members. We do have some level of corporate support, small amount, but I think this, again, on the right-hand side of this slide, it just shows the point that the majority of our donations and our income actually comes from within the UK itself. And we are a UK-based charity, subject to UK Charities Commission rules, so we're not allowed to fundraise ourselves outside of the UK. So if we want to grow the funding to be able to promote the research and the activities and the support that everybody wants around the world, that's almost impossible to do from within the UK. So here are our accounts, and if any of you would like to see, I can't see on my small screen, so I'm going to remind myself by looking up. We had just over £40,476 income last year. Most of that funding is what is called restricted. That means it's set aside for specific purposes, either primarily for the research fund or for the family conference or wellbeing workshops. So we can't spend it on other activities. We actually only spent £8,000 last year, and we're actually very lucky to be quite cash rich. So our cash funds currently stand at £126,000, of which about £77,000 is restricted for our research fund and set aside for our natural history study, and quite a lot of the other funding is set aside for this conference today as well.
My turn again.
Oh, sorry.
Oh. So yes, and I think Alison mentioned before that, well, first of all, I want to say a big thank you to Chris, who is not actually here yet. We're hoping he's going to arrive shortly, for all the efforts that he's made for the charity over recent years. And I think for a variety of reasons, he's decided that it's time to step down, which means that there is that vacancy. But in fact, that isn't the only vacancy. So we're particularly interested either in another family representative. We've got Dale, which is wonderful, but it would be great to have another. So if anybody is interested, just come and talk to us. And we're also interested in having somebody who has a lot of more in-depth knowledge of research, of the science behind this, We have our medical advisory board, but they're incredibly busy clinicians. So to have somebody on our board would be really, really useful. And the other one, which is so important, and I mean the pandemic brought it forward, is the digital nature of, and look at all the trouble we're having this evening. So to have somebody on the board who had those skills and that background would be incredibly useful. So yeah, I think it's just to reinforce what Alison said earlier, that if you're interested, come and chat to us, either Alison or myself or both of us, and we can tell you more about it. It's not that onerous. The actual board side of things is not that onerous. We meet pretty regularly, we try to anyway, and we do most of that on Zoom because it's much more effective, and you know, we all live in different places, so it doesn't, you know, there's no travel involved, doesn't take up a huge amount of time, and you can help to steer the charity. I mean, that's one of the big things about it. So enough from me.
And I think the only other point is that a trust, whilst a volunteer, unfortunately for insurance purposes, has to be UK based, a trustee doesn't. So we can take trustees from outside the UK, if anyone's interested.
And that would be great.
Fab. Okay, I think that brings our AGM to a close, unless anybody has any questions for us in terms of the formal side of proceedings.